Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talking Trends, where we explore all things real estate and luxury related in the greater Sarasota area. We are excited today to have Pete Havens with us, Yacht Broker at Marine Max here in Sarasota. Welcome.
Great to be here. Great to be here. It's
awesome.
been a while. You've been trying to get me out here for
exactly.
I don't know how many months or years, whatever, but thank you.
I know, it's a great thing. It's fun, right? Explore the luxury boat market.
Yeah, what's
happening there?
What's better than being out on the water, right?
Exactly. I mean, I got out this weekend even.
Good.
So good. So yachting, boating, the market, what's happening out there right now?
I mean, we're still kind of recovering from the whole COVID expansion. It was a real eye opener for our industry, and I think people said how did you expect this, or what didn't you expect this, and nobody expected it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we went from panic because we thought that nobody was going to sell anything. We didn't know how to sell it. All our stores were closing, but now. We're just recovering.
Yeah. So. I mean, it's interesting. It kind of parallels the real estate market. I mean, COVID happens, right? And we kind of go into panic mode, shut down for a couple months, not knowing what the heck's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we pop out and, Florida is like where it's all happening.
Yep. Yeah. So we experience, it's a recreation. So, people weren't flying, couldn't go to hotels, motels, everything was shutting down. And, we were there people want to get out on the water.
Exactly.
So,
I mean, it was one of those things, right? It was like again, Florida became highlighted because you could come here, you could do all the things outside, right? Boating, golfing, all of those things.
And the north is shutting down.
Exactly. Exactly. So that element really hit the market. And before COVID, it was still a decent boat market, right?
I've been with the company for 17 years, and aside from like 2008, 9, 10, it's always been really busy here, really busy. Yeah. And that was like the flip of the side of the business. We went from 6 months inventory to three years inventory in a month.
Right.
This time with COVID, we went from 6 months inventory to no inventory. We haven't had any inventory for 2 years.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. And inventory, right? It's kind of the name of the game for us out there right now. And we were just chatting before the show, you're selling inventory into the future.
Yes. Yeah. So we have half of 2023 sold already. So, if you don't want to wait, and there's a lot of customers that don't want to buy used boats. They're only new boat buyers, but they have to be patient. Yeah. And, we have some brands and models you can get in 2 months, and other ones that are going to be 2 years.
Right.
So, and then the challenge is how to keep people engaged, because 2 years, a lot can happen. 1 year, a lot can happen. People, health, they transition in and out of Florida, but we're a very diverse company with 100 locations, and we have a lot of north-south relationships.
Yeah. I'm sure it makes a big difference just to have that geographic coverage.
It is. It's huge. And before, the products that we would distribute around the whole country, you had the northern products that might be a little bit different than the southern products.
Right.
But now, when COVID hit, we were selling all the Northerners' boats. They were shut down. Their stores were closed, and we grabbed all their inventory. Mm-hmm. And then when they reopened, they didn't have anything. So, it's a market that grew across the board about 35%.
Wow, interesting.
And it's all incremental business.
Yeah. And is it kind of so we're starting to see a little bit of a normalization in the real estate market. Is it happening in the boating market too?
No, we're still in recovery mode. We're seeing a little bit less phone activity, but we're still seeing a lot of internet activity. What keeps me up at night is, knowing that we have service challenges, because the industry grew 35%, but we couldn't hire 35% more technicians.
Right.
And gel coat repair people and boat washing people and canvas and vinyl repair. And and then it was like even worse because people were sick.
Yeah.
And family members were sick and they weren't coming into work. So we had a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And with our in the service section,
side, yeah.
so the salespeople were selling, and then it was screeching halt.
Yeah. Kind of a bottleneck on the
bottleneck.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I am able to visit manufacturers, and I'm talking to the guys on the line, and they're saying, our lines are going slower because they have back orders on parts.
Service stuff too, yeah.
And, one example was I was at Boston Whaler Factory, and one of their best-selling boats, the 32 Vantage, the line was going half as fast as it should, and it was shut down for 3 months.
Wow.
Because they were waiting for a simple part like a dive door a hinge.
Yeah.
But that line supervisor said, this product line is missing 127 parts right now to complete one boat.
Wow.
And
crazy.
So they're moving people around and trying to
shuffle.
Yeah.
Figure out the puzzle. And I think it's kind of what we're seeing, right? The labor market is tight, and so again, getting those service elements done, parts and service.
Parts and service, yeah.
Exactly. So obviously that's mostly about the new product and selling. And what about resales?
Resales, we can get pre-owned boats, and there's never, the best selling boats are harder to get.
Yeah.
And people have waiting lists for used boats coming in, but we're fortunate that we have a big share of the market. Yeah. So I can call up Joel Schemmel and say, hey, do you want to sell your Boston Whaler? And if you're not using it, you'll say to me, well, what can you get me, for the boat? And you'd be surprised that the market is so strong that, a boat that we sold in 2018, we're telling people that we could sell it for what they paid for it in 2018.
Crazy.
And 2019, maybe more. 2020, maybe more.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the type of boat, but some boats are really desirable.
So I should be in pretty good shape for my 2021.
2021, yeah. Just as long as you order a 2023.
Exactly. So the market has changed a little bit. Historically, when you bought a boat, the minute you took possession of it, you actually the value of it would drop. You're saying that generally right now the resale market is good enough to kind of fill that gap.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There were the days, and we were a big Sea Ray dealer. And I remember when I first started off in 2005, we were Sea Ray and Boston Whaler. And a Sea Ray buyer would come in, and the day they closed, they'd lose 15%. Right. No matter even like on the $1 million, diesel boat.
Right.
And it was always a tough conversation to have if 6 months down the road they said, hey, it's not big enough, or it's not the right boat. I want to trade it in. What's it worth? Yeah. And it was tough to have that conversation. And then on top of that, a brokerage commission, so you could be 25% upside down in 6 months. Those days are different right now. A Sea Ray 29 that I sold at Christmas, the guy said it wasn't big enough. He wanted to buy a 31, and it's a $200,000 boat that we sold for $250,000 6 months later. So it's just, that's the market right now.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. And so in that, as far as brands and what's kind of hot and what's not out there, are there brands that are always at the top of everybody's lists?
I would say we do really well with Boston Whaler. And, it is a premium product. They do hold up really well. I own two of them. Both of them, I have a 2005 and a 2007. And if you got on them, you'd be like, oh my gosh, they look like brand new boats. Right. So if you take care of them, they hold up. You service them every year, they'll take care of you, and you'll have a lot of fun on them. But I would say, for the most part, the premium lines are doing better. Outboard product, outboards have come a long way in the last 20 years. Right. They went from 2-stroke to 4-stroke. The 4-strokes were dominated by Yamaha and Honda. Now they're dominated by Merck. Merck is, mostly because they're made in America and you can get them faster. A lot of the OEM manufacturers that used to be only Yamaha are now flipping to Merc.
Yeah.
So it's put a lot of pressure on like repowers. Like if you wanted to repower with a 300 V8 right now, you have to wait like a year.
Wow.
So the OEM manufacturers are first in line. So like Boston Whaler
gets them.
is owned by Brunswick. Mercury is owned by Brunswick.
Yeah, gotcha.
So when you go to the Boston Whaler factory and you go to a warehouse, there'll be 600 Mercs there waiting to be hung on the boats. And you think 600, that's a lot. And they say, well, that's, 3 months worth of product.
Yeah.
So, because boats are bigger now, more engines on the back, some of these get 4 engines, 3 engines, 2 engines is real common. So
that's the fun part. I mean, obviously, I'm out near MarineMax occasionally. I mean, some of the boats are really kind of crazy.
It's gotten, when I started, the average size was 24 feet. Now the average size is 32 feet.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
It's put pressure on storage.
Yeah.
Where's all this real estate that you're going to put 32-foot boats? So, we've had to expand our racks. All of our stores have had to expand their forklifts. The supports on the seawalls for heavier boats. We've poured 300 truckloads of concrete in the last 2 years. And it's a constant fight with, nature eroding our property, and then we have to put more concrete down. It's a big investment in the storage business.
And it is an interesting trend because I know it's kind of like golf course memberships and, finding someplace to keep your boat is actually a challenge. I think there's waiting lists almost everywhere.
It bottlenecks. It bottlenecks, and especially if you have a big boat, you want to keep it in a slip. Marina Jack is a big local place, and they're, could be a year out on a over 40 foot. I'm a Sarasota Yacht Club member, and there's 80 people on the waiting list for a slip at Sarasota Yacht Club. Longboat key moorings. People are buying and selling slips, and the values are going through the roof, but there's still waiting lists. So,
it's interesting because the moorings always had tons of slips available. They've kind of, and the prices were really reasonable. That's all changed.
And then there's another shift. We're selling power cats now. So our Aquila line is going crazy. So I'm in the process of selling a 54 right now, and I called 15 marinas, and nobody even has a spot to put a boat that's 25 feet wide.
Wow, interesting.
So it's usually a T-head, or they have to take out pilings for 2 boats. And usually a boat that's 25 feet wide is 100 feet long. This is a 54-foot boat that's 25 feet wide. I think you're going to see a shift with these marinas that they're going to accommodate more power cats, because that's it's a new, very popular. Not only for personal use, but also for chartering.
Interesting. So, like, traditional Boston Whaler, do they come out with new models all the time, or is it just been a market where they haven't had to do that?
They just released a new 28 Dauntless that replaced a 27 Dauntless that's been in production for probably 7 years. So they go on like a 7 to 10 year cycle. But Boston Whaler has 44 different models of boats. And they're the #1 boat manufacturer in the United States. And people, don't really understand that #1 is only like 3,500 boats. So
still not that.
It's not a day's production at the Ford Motor Company plant, so very, very hand labor, very parts dependent, and the bigger and more complex the boat, the more possibility you have for offshore parts. And offshore parts take longer. And then there's the shipping costs, fuel prices, shipping costs, everything is adding to the prices going up. I think I saw the price of gas at MarineMax was like $6.50. We just had a price reduction, so we are trying to pass it back through.
Exactly. This is the world today. So fun things, no names or anything, but your biggest client. I mean, how big is their boat, or how many boats do they have?
I mean, our biggest clients have had multiple boats with us. So we have clients that are, multiple boat owners that have bought, multiple $5 million boats. Some of them have bought, this year we just sold 2 boats over $15 million that are local.
Huh.
And one of them lives in Fort Lauderdale, and the other one's actually between Longboat Key and the East Coast. So
interesting.
So a lot of these, mega yacht owners, they can't boat really in Sarasota.
Right.
So we have some challenges with the depths through the passes. So you see all these big boats at Marina Jack and Longboat Key moorings, but you don't see them a lot, going in and out of the passes. You have either Longboat Pass on the north or Venice in the south. But so most of the boats that we sell have under a 5-foot draft.
Mm-hmm.
That boat
Makes
regularly in the area. And a lot of these boat owners go big and small. They go up and down. And
constant moving.
The good news is our product line is really diverse. We sell probably 10 major lines here in Sarasota, but 20 in the nation.
So I mean, it is interesting, the whole, where you keep your boat in because obviously we get the question in real estate all the time. Can I keep my 60-foot, boat in the backyard? And most of the time the answer is no. It's very hard in this.
I mean, I look at, I'm always looking at waterfront property myself. And, when I first came down here, I'm like, oh my gosh, waterfront property, I could just have the boat behind my house.
Right.
But, in the price range that I was looking, the water was like 6 inches deep.
Exactly.
So you're paying, for this waterfront property, but you can only get a kayak there. So
exactly.
I think people have to keep that in mind too. But there's definitely still a lot of demand for boat storage.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's kind of one of those, if you were going to go spend $200,000 on a boat, what would be the one that you would pick out?
I mean, again, I'm a huge Boston Whaler fan. When that $200,000 can get you an older, bigger boat or a newer, smaller boat. So the $200,000 24-footer. And that's sort of where they're at right now with good power. They're not cheap. Even the mid-range boats are not cheap anymore.
Right.
So it's really I always look at boats as a price per pound. And whalers used to be like $28 a pound. I think they're now up to like $32 a pound.
Interesting.
Not with the engines on them, but that same measure can be used on the mid-range boats and the inexpensive boats that weigh less, but they might be the same length.
Right.
And why are they 30% less money? And it's because there's 30% less material there.
Which makes sense. At least
time
it's all
and
related.
material, labor and material. Some of the more expensive materials weigh more. The amount of heavy gauge stainless steel versus an aluminum hinge. Right. Two-sided parts in the boat manufacturing process, you could have a single-sided part or a two-sided part. Two-sided parts are finished on both sides, and it weighs twice as much. So a deck lid that's two-sided is going to weigh twice as much than a single, and that's what adds weight to a boat.
Interesting. And so so obviously we're talking kind of these big boats and everything, but what's your average price boat that you generally sell?
My average price last year was $300,000.
So, and your high?
Last year was $6 million.
$6 million. And your low?
I don't sell a lot of boats under 50,000. Even used. It doesn't. We don't. I mean, I think Boston Whaler, their 13-foot Super Sport is now a $30,000 boat. When I first started in the company, it was $10,000.
Right.
So the prices have gone up, but also the technology's gone up too. So the advancements in engines, the electronics that go on them. So they used to be like vanilla. Now everything comes loaded. And part of the technology has brought more customers to us too.
Sure.
So the people that used to be fearful of driving a boat, now that you have joystick controls, they can, like a video game, drive sideways and pull off a dock, and they look like heroes. You know, so the technology has actually helped us.
Yeah, and I assume that's a big factor, right, for a lot of people with bigger boats, because they are going to be more comfortable with all that technology.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I was actually talking to somebody about, again, not a very experienced boater, but somebody who had I don't even know what they had, but basically they just put it on autopilot every time they got on it. If they wanted to go somewhere, they just put it in the computer, and it takes them away.
Takes them away. Yeah. Yeah. They still make you put in waypoints. It's like being a pilot, you know. So as a captain, you can't just get on a boat and say, take me to shore restaurant and leave the helm. Yeah. Because there's still going to be obstacles that the GPS doesn't know about. You know, anything from a boat that's anchored out in front of you, or a piling that isn't showing up on the equipment. So you still have to have a captain that's alert, looking forward. Attention. We tell our captains, you know, not to just look at the screen. Yeah. The screen is a tool. Mm-hmm. So
that's good. And of course, that's, you know, MarineMax has a great program too. Obviously, they do. Any of their boat owners get they get complimentary lessons. Yeah. And it's awesome. And it's with licensed captains. So we have 3 captains that do our lessons and training. When I first started in the market, I mean, that was our big selling point, you know, getting new people into it. And then once COVID hit, you know, all these people are just buying anything that was available. So, you know, our competition, everybody was selling out, and our competition doesn't do the training that we do. So we saw a huge rise in damage claims, insurance claims, accidents. People that wanted to get out of the water and didn't want to take advantage of our training. They just wanted to go and get out, and whether it be for social distancing or just you know, want to get the family out. That's been another challenge. I'm sure. So it was fun. I don't know, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? I was driving out on the longboat, and obviously MarineMax there in the past, and there was, what was it? Some Aquapalooza. There's probably 500 boats there. This year, I think there was like 200. But we do it every year. We did it Memorial Day this year, which I think that's going to be our new day or weekend. But we had 3 bands. Started at 10 o'clock in the morning and ended at like 4 in the afternoon. So the bands are on our seawall, and they have big speakers that people can hear on the sandbar across from our store. So we had drone footage, and it's just really a nice social event. Yeah, exactly. And they did, MarineMax too did a nice upgrade of the club there, the facility there. The facility, we have a new members lounge that went in with showers and Wi-Fi, and you know, if you're waiting for service, you can go into air conditioning and do some work. And that was a nice addition. Yeah, definitely. So, kind of bringing everything together. Any other thoughts you have on the market or what's going out there, or the future? The future, we still see demand. I think we're probably going to have to go back to the basics on selling the way we used to in the past. Once the inventory starts building up, but we probably see 6 more months before the manufacturers will start making product for the dealerships, because the customers take precedence over the dealer. It's probably going to be after the first of the year. Yeah, and it's an interesting phenomenon. I mean, you kind of hit on it. You know, when kind of this element passes of kind of the frenzy. I mean, because we're seeing it now in real estate, and we're actually kind of enjoying it to a certain extent, because it's like, I actually add a lot more value. In the normal market. We're not just order taking. Exactly. Where we're out there working, marketing, you know, networking, using our sphere to actually create the business. And I think that's where we add the value. So it's kind of refreshing again. We went from pre-COVID to COVID to kind of
the
post-COVID
yes.
version, and so it's I have a meeting this afternoon with a client about a price reduction. I mean, we haven't had those in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's part of that normalization of the market. So well, fantastic, Pete. I really enjoyed having you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah,
we'll have to do it again.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Maybe in a year we'll see where the market is.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Till next time. See you soon.